Welcome, this is Jim, host of the Faith Influencer podcast, where we're going to dive into discussions on faith's role in everyday life, from navigating blended families to overcoming challenges. I'm a husband, a father, a Bible teacher, an advocate for applying faith to everyday life. So tune in as I share personal stories, valuable insights, and practical wisdom. Welcome back to Faith Influencer. This is Jim Cunningham. I'm going to follow up on something that we talked about a few weeks ago, and I'm going to do it by way of request. It was brought to my attention that there's one little piece that's missing in people's relationships when they're considering getting remarried. So, how do you know that you're going to remarry the right person? How do you know that they're the right person? Some people say, well, you never know if they're really the right person. Well, I'm going to disagree with that a little bit and say there really are some markers as to how to know. There are some patterns that you can identify that'll help you know if this person you're dating or considering blending a family with, that they're the right person. So this is so important because here's what happens. You know from listening to this podcast that generally speaking, people who blend a family end up getting a divorce. It's a very high percentage. And why is that? It is because you're remarrying the wrong person. So let's talk about how to remarry the right person. And if you're in a relationship with the wrong person, what do? You get out. I'll explain as we go through this. So we talked about don't marry the wrong person before, but I'm going to give you some information as to how to know they're the wrong person. I know that trusting again isn't easy, and maybe you've let your guard down with someone, but we need to go deeper than that, than just saying you trust them. So let me give you some markers and some ideas. So I'm going to start with how people mess up. These are the mistakes that people make when it comes to considering remarrying this guy. So let me frame it this way. You're listening to me right now on this podcast, and you're dating a person. And let's just say you're a female and you're wanting to know, should I marry this guy? There are things that are good. There are things that I'm not sure about. I have children. Should I marry this guy? I'm glad you've tuned in. Or maybe you're a guy and you're saying, here's this lady and I don't have kids and she has kids and we're considering blending a family and I feel like I love her, but I don't know if I should marry her. How do I know if I should marry her? Glad you tuned in. I'm going to tell you how to know. Okay. How do you know? I'm going to tell you. But let me tell you, first of all, the mistakes that people make. Dear Lord, if I could just set people down and only go through the mistakes, we could probably clear up a lot of this. Because the mistakes that people make when they remarry somebody, and the things that they say as to why they're going to remarry this person or why they're going to get married to this person, have now reached the level of ridiculous. But let's talk about them in case you fall under that umbrella of being ridiculous. If you're saying this, then stop. Oh, but we have chemistry. I'm looking for chemistry. I need someone I have chemistry with. Listen, chemistry is a real thing, but so is bad judgment. Chemistry doesn't mean anything when it comes to remarrying someone. You can have chemistry with your barista, and they don't even know how to spell your name. So the idea that I want to remarry this person because we have a chemistry is absolutely not a foundation to remarry someone. Let me give you another mistake, but we have a connection. Oh, people will tell me that. Oh, but we're connected. I've got a connection with them. So that's not a basis for blending a family. That's not a basis for joining children that together and because you have a connection. Let me tell you now, let's get real serious. Let me tell you why you have a connection that's a false connection. I'm going to tell you why. Because in our society, we have thrown out the idea of having sex with someone before you get married. So here's what happens. I cannot tell you how many times. This just proves the Bible. So you find this guy or you find this girl, maybe you've been single or divorced for a long time. You obviously have physical needs. Nothing wrong with having physical needs. Nothing wrong with having physical desires. Guess where they came from? They came from God. God placed those physical desires there. but how you meet those desires is what I'm talking about. So here's what we do in our society now, as if it means nothing. You just have sex with that guy, or you just have sex with that girl. And you think, what's the big deal? Well, the Bible addresses that. Do you know that the Bible says that when you have sex with someone, that you two become one? You're becoming one flesh with this person, even if you're not married. It's not talking about marriage. It's talking about just having sex. If you have sex with someone you're not married to, then you are bringing two people into one. You've created one flesh with that person. And guess what? No wonder you have a connection with them, because you stepped outside of being smart, not just what the Bible says, just being smart, and you've created this connection. So when you have sex with someone, you're going to think they're the right person, because now you have these emotional bonds with this person. This emotional feeling is going to make you feel close to them. And because you feel close to them, guess what? They all of a sudden become the right person that you should marry, because you have this emotional connection. Well, the connection is false. The connection was built on grounds that wasn't legitimate. So don't think just because you had sex with someone and now they feel like the right person, that they're the right person. That again is a false foundation. You say, oh, but this is how I feel. It doesn't matter how you feel. I don't care how you feel. If you want to marry someone because you feel like they're the right person, how can you even think that? How can someone even say, well, it feels right? There are so many things wrong with that. So these are the mistakes that people make. I want to know, are they really ready? So let's talk about that. How do you know that someone's ready to get married? How do you know? And I'm applying this to blended families, but you can apply it to first-time marriages as well. How do you know someone is ready to get married? I want to give you 5 markers, okay? I want to give you 5 markers how to know. 1, they are already who they need to be. Now, I want to clarify this. This person is ready when they are already who they need to be. I'm not saying they need to be perfect, because no one's going to meet that criteria. But I don't want you to ever consider marrying someone on who they are going to be, on who they're becoming. Well, they have potential. One of these days they're going to be, I think they're trying. Well, you need to wait till they get through trying. You need to wait till they are becoming. It's not based on what they promise they'll be. That's not what you're looking for. It's who they are right now. So get what I'm saying to you. We're not considering who they're going to be in the future. We're not considering what they promise. When you're asking if someone is ready to get married, who are they right now? That's the question I want you to ask. Is their life stable right now? Do you know how many people marry someone who's unstable because they think they're going to become stable? When I say it like that, can you hear all the things that are wrong with that? You're not asking who they're becoming. You're asking who they are right now. Are they stable? You're asking this: is their character already consistent? Not promising. Is it already consistent? If you are faith-based and you're Christian like I am, you're asking this: is their walk with God more than just talk? Is their walk more than just talk? Not who they're becoming, who they are right now. That's the first marker. And then here's the second one. Do they take full ownership of their past? Now, in this podcast, we're mostly speaking to blended families. And in a blended family, if you're thinking about remarriage, it's because you've been divorced, right? So I want to ask you this: is the person you're remarrying or considering to remarry, do they take responsibility? This really is a big one for me, and it's sort of a pet peeve in our society today. But do they take responsibility for their past? Do they take responsibility for their part of the past relationship? Or is it always deflection? Is it always blame? When you talk to someone and they've been through a divorce and you've only heard how bad their ex-spouse is,
That's a red flag. Why? Because there's two sides. There's always two sides to every story. I know the faults that I had. I I don't run from them. I'm honest with them. Someone is wrong when they can say I was wrong. So someone, let me say that correctly. Someone is right, at least have taken a step when they can say how they were wrong. When they can say these are the mistakes that I made. You see, because if someone is not willing to own up to their mistakes, they're going to repeat them. If they're not willing to say, this is where I blew it. I know my ex-partner, I've said all this, but there were some issues in my life too, and here's what they were. Can that person that you're dating or considering remarriage, can they talk about that? Can they say that? And then can they say this? Can they say, and here's what I've changed? Now, in my own life, I waited some years before I remarried, but in that process, in my own personal life, I looked back and I did this evaluation of my own life and noticed, you know what? You're not so perfect either, guy. And as I've told you, I spent some time with a counselor named Lanny, and I walked through some things. And because there's some things that I need to change. There's some things that weren't right in my life. There's some things in my life that would have been difficult to live with. There were some stubborn areas in my life that I needed to take ownership of. And ownership is a sign of maturity. So when you're considering remarrying someone, how about that? Have they taken ownership? Do they even see where they were wrong? Have they corrected that? Have they made those changes? And can they talk to you about it? Maybe this is one of the most difficult things for me is vulnerability. But I have learned over the years the need for vulnerability. The more vulnerable you are, the more relatable you are. And when you can be honest about your own mistakes and downfalls, that makes you so much more attractive, makes you so much more appealing to that person that you care about. So, can you be vulnerable? All right, let's keep going. The next thing is, here's the next marker. Is there a clear and consistent path? Similar to what I said before, but a little different. Is there a clear and consistent path? I'm not asking if they're perfect. Again, not going to happen. I'm asking, are they moving in a consistent direction that's appealing to you? Consistency, such a big deal. People can be consistent for a time, but can they be consistent over a long period of time? You know how many times, just because on a faith-based basis and because of my background in ministry, people will come to me and they say, okay, I'm starting on this Bible plan. I'm going to give you an example. They say, I'm starting on this Bible plan and I'm going to read through the Bible. And in about 3 weeks, I'll say, how you doing? Oh man, I've missed the last few days, but I'm going to pick it back up. I know where this is headed. Or how about in January, we're going to start going to work out. You know how that goes, right? And by February, you've quit the membership. Is there a consistency? If you're looking at remarrying and this person, you're wondering, are they the right person? Then are they going in the right direction? You don't want someone who's hot and then cold. You don't want someone who's perfect for a week and the next week they're moody. I mean, why do you want to be married to that? I mean, you not that they're going to be perfect and not that there are times that we're all going to be moody. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about there's a consistent hot and cold, hot and cold. They're not ready. Up and down, up and down. No, they're not ready. Are they steady? That's what I'm asking. Are they steady in their life? Why do I say that? Because a person's direction matters more than their words. The path they're going matters more than what they're saying. Well, let's go to the fourth one. The fourth one, I'm going to call it again a marker. There is an alignment, not just an attraction. You can be attracted to the wrong person all day long. You can be attracted to a person just because physically they're very beautiful or handsome. Or I'm asking for alignment. And by the way, that attraction thing doesn't last in marriage. those kind of surface things. One of the funniest things is the friends of mine, and they're still married, but they've struggled in their marriage. But she would always say, "Oh, when we were married, he was so funny, and now he annoys the heck out of me. His jokes are never funny." Those kinds of things don't last. Or someone is so beautiful. Well, you know what? If their personality stings, it's not going to last long. So I'm asking, is there an alignment, not just an attraction? You like them? Great. You probably ought to like someone you're going to marry. But do you agree on things? Do you agree on these things? Answer this. Do you and the person you're considering marriage, do you agree on faith? Do you agree on your faith? You say, taking my kids to church is important to me. Is it important to them? If it's not, you're not in alignment. I'm going to absolutely tell you, do not marry that person if faith and the Lord and church and those things are what you want for your family and for your children, but it's not important to them. Do not marry that person. You are not in alignment. Let's keep going. How about values? Are you in alignment with your values? What things are important to you by way of your values? Here's another one. How about parenting? That's a big one. How about parenting? Do you parent your children? You don't have to have the exact same ideas. You're coming from two different histories. I understand that, two different types of parenting, but you ought to talk about parenting, and this is part of counseling. You ought to get in alignment how you're going to parent your kids. Do you know how many people in remarriages and blended families get a divorce over the children? I'm going to actually tell you that statistically in blended families, divorces happen more over children issues than anything else. I mean, that's number one. Parenting issues is the number one thing. So are you in alignment with parenting? You need to talk about this. Here's another one, and it again is a big one. Are you in alignment over your money? Are you in alignment with how you handle your money? What's important to you in relationship to money? That's another big one. And then how about boundaries? This is a personal big one for me. I want boundaries. Children need boundaries. If you have a person who doesn't have enough values to have boundaries, but you do, you're not in alignment. So talk about the boundaries. And here's a great question to ask the person you're considering remarrying. Ask them this: what kind of boundaries? Don't explain it to them. I want them to understand what you're talking about. I want you to see if they know what you're talking about. I want you to ask them this: so what kind of boundaries would you want us to put in place if we were to get married? I want you to ask them that question, but please don't answer it. What kind of boundaries? If they can give you some solid boundaries, I hope they just blow you away with that answer. But if they can't even come up with a boundary and they don't even know what you're talking about, I'm telling you right now, not ready. Not ready. You're looking at a project, and you don't need a project when you blend your family together. And then here's the last thing I'd say by way of markers is there peace, not pressure? Peace, not pressure. I was visiting with someone, this has actually been a few years ago, but I was asking, well, why are you wanting to get married? And she said, honestly, I'm feeling a little pressure. And that's not a good basis for marriage. You need to have peace, not pressure. You don't need to feel rushed. Don't rush in. If someone puts pressure on you and it's like, we're going to get married in this time, and if we don't, then I'm moving on, then move on. Then move on. Being rushed and pressured is not right. I only added that to the marker because I hear that more times than you could imagine. The right relationship doesn't need urgency to survive. You don't need to get married quick to survive. There needs to be peace. So those are 5 markers. Let me give you a couple of other things. There's this great anchor to all of this in the Bible. It's actually in the book of James. And the book of James says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. What a great passage for marriage. Let me say it this way. Be slow in your relationships. Don't dive in quickly, because this is going to shape your entire future. Speed has ruined more second marriages than almost anything. And do you know why? When he's talking about slow down and how you think, slow down on what you do, you know why? Because sometimes your reason for getting married quickly is because you have unmet needs. And it may just be that you're lonely. It may just be that you're lonely. Well, getting married isn't the remedy for that. That's not how you fulfill your loneliness. So don't rush. Don't look at speed as necessary when it comes to relationship. So you are not just choosing a partner. Look at the big picture. You're choosing a parent figure when you blend a family. You're choosing a voice, another voice in your home. These are big ideas. You're choosing another culture. You're choosing a culture that's going to be brought into your home, into your family. You have to think about those kinds of things. So this isn't just about love. When you say, well, I just love them, what you're really saying is that you're probably not going to make it. Oh, I know you want to push back against that, and push back in the comments. But I'm telling you, to say, well, I just love them means nothing. You need to consider all that we've talked about. So don't ask, do I love them? Ask this, are they ready? That's the question. Not do I love them, are they ready? Am I seeing patterns, not just potential? Are the patterns already there? And listen, when you're not being rushed and you're not feeling pressure and you're seeing the patterns that you're looking for, and this person is solid in all these areas that we've talked about, then you're not going to be confused. You're not going to be confused if they're ready. You're not going to be asking for clarity. So have better filters. Put these things in place. Don't dive in and become another statistic. I work so hard in this podcast, in an upcoming book that takes a lot of these principles that we're putting together so that you can have it in your hand, working so hard to keep you from becoming another statistic in blended families relationships. So thank you for joining in. I'm so excited that we're moving in the right direction and you're making wise choices. This is Jim Cunningham. We'll talk to you next time.